I want to start by thanking Macon Del Rahim. Thank you so much to you and the Antitrust Division of the U.S. Department of Justice for inviting me here and for hearing my heart as a music creator. Thank you for taking the time to listen to all of us songwriters, for listening to the actual creators who are the only reason that every business that uses music to have a business has a business. I thought it would be fitting to start these workshops off reminding us of the magical gift of songwriting. Although, Macon, you did a beautiful job at that and made me cry. So, you know, it took someone sitting in a half-lit room somewhere with a half-eaten sandwich, a pencil and a pad of paper, their phone recorder turned on, and then them inviting pure emotion to come down from the sky in the form of poetic melody and lyric, taking pain and joy, loss or forgiveness, and turning it into an intangible form that everyone feels that they own because they can hear it in their head or their heart when an iPad or a device is not turned on. The song didn't even exist until a songwriter helped bring it into the world for others to hear. If it feels like it is as free as the air that you breathe, it is because the world has treated it as such. Songs like this, if you don't mind, I'm singing it a moment. How do I live without you? I want to know. How do I breathe without you? If you ever go, how do I ever survive? How do I live? That iconic song was written by, thank you. That iconic song was written by my friend Diane Warren, and I was very blessed to be able to record that song. Yet it begs me to question, for every future young songwriter out there who has a dream in them of writing their own How Do I Live, how can they expect a fair wage for their work? How will they live? How can a new songwriter dream of their first hit in the 21st century and thriving as a songwriter if there is an outdated 80-plus year consent decree that binds them to rules that no longer apply to the modern world in which at this point in time they couldn't even survive? Look, I wasn't around in 1941, clearly, but I do give everyone the benefit of the doubt that the Department of Justice's consent decree upon ASCAP and BMI was the right decision at the time. Music back then was one of the most powerful driving forces of entertainment before TV, internet, streaming, video games, I mean, you name it. The consent decree was probably needed. But after 80 years, the consent decree is a sad failure at anticipating the modern complexities of copyright and its enforcement for the benefit of its creators. I have been an ASCAP member since 2004 as both a songwriter and a music publisher with my own company, Angelfish Songs. Hundreds of thousands of businesses have used my songs, radio stations, streaming sites, bars and restaurants, movie studios, and although ASCAP has done a fantastic job of taking care of me, the current consent decree binds their hands from protecting me to the best of their ability. You must take into account the singer-songwriter-performer, where a pandemic named COVID-19 has crippled touring for every singer-songwriter at least for a year. I'm happy to be here today as a voice, but I also feel the weight and responsibility for more than 1.7 million songwriters, composers, and music publishers who depend upon ASCAP and BMI to make sure we get paid for our hard work. That is the beauty of collective licensing. It does work. It makes things easy for businesses who use music. And it also allows us as creators to focus on creating more music so we can actually earn a living. And this is why modernizing the outdated ASCAP and BMI consent decrees is so important for songwriters like me. In the age of streaming, songwriters no longer make money through record sales anymore. And that means the performance royalties songwriters collect through ASCAP and BMI are our biggest source of income. For millions of other songwriters, especially especially people who are just starting out or those whose work is entirely behind the scenes. It is a question of paying their rent, putting food on the table, and taking care of their children. And for them, the stakes could not be higher, especially now when our community of music creators is suffering so much from lost income because of the global pandemic. We need the work ASCAP and BMI does for us more than ever. The problem, of course, is that ASCAP and BMI are operating under consent decrees that have been in place for more than 80 years. It doesn't take a lawyer to see that these laws have not kept pace with how dramatically the music industry has changed since 1941. The American songwriter is one of the most government-controlled professions in American history. Songwriters being paid less than fair market value for what we create. There simply has to be a better way, and there is a better way. For some of us, it's a question of fairness. Why should the businesses who use our music, some of which are the biggest multinational tech and media companies in the world, get what amounts to special treatment under the law when it comes to music licensing? Are we really supposed to believe that these huge companies need the government to protect them from songwriters in order to get a fair deal? And yet, that is exactly what the consent decree essentially offers. Almost a full century of precedent has refined and modernized antitrust law since 1941. It is completely unfair for ASCAP and BMI to be restricted by consent decrees that reflect the antitrust doctrines of 1941, while the businesses that ASCAP and BMI license and compete with operate under the antitrust doctrines of 2019. And so on behalf of my fellow American songwriters, I am asking you to modernize the outdated ASCAP and BMI consent decrees. It gives us the flexibility that we need to adapt to all the new realities of the music industry. And it lets us compete and innovate so we can be paid fairly. ASCAP and BMI have proposed a reasonable path forward. Take it. Take it. And let your legacy be that you chose to stand with songwriters so they could provide for their families and keep creating the music that we all know and love. Before I go, I just want to thank ASCAP as an organization for all you do, for all of your support for songwriters. And I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for having me. And thank you again for the Antitrust Division and the U.S. Department of Justice for inviting me here today. I greatly appreciate your time. Thank you.